You're listening to The Elephant Test. We're dedicated to the B2B marketing community and here to explore the practices, thoughts, and ideas of effective B2B marketing executives.
Thanks for joining us on The Elephant Test. I'm your host, Sky Cassidy, and today we'll be talking with Ali Jawin about marketing automation. Ali, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Excellent. Before we get into it, let me give you a proper introduction here. Ali, and I keep saying Ali like Muhammad Ali. It's Ali, right?
Yes, I'm not that good at throwing a punch. I've never done it in my life.
So the Muhammad Ali of marketing automation here. Ali is a global marketing automation manager at Riskmethods. She's responsible within their marketing for providing best practice guidance, marketing systems management, enabling technical infrastructure, and reporting and analytics for all marketing functions. Thanks again for joining us. Ali, can you give us a brief overview of what Riskmethods does and kind of what your day-to-day is over there?
Certainly. So anyone who's a marketer probably hasn't heard of Riskmethods because we don't do anything that will in any way benefit for you. We're a SaaS product for tier one manufacturers. We have a SaaS solution that helps manufacturers identify risk across their supply chain, the impact of a supply chain disruption, and how to mitigate the risks within their disruption. So the people we're trying to make contact with and really educate are manufacturers who are a little wary of a SaaS technology. They're a little bit more behind in the sales and marketing space, or sorry, they're more behind than I think we are in adopting digital transformation. But we really do give them unprecedented visibility into their supply chains to protect themselves from risk. And my day-to-day here at Methods is making sure we can communicate with all of our customers and prospects effectively so that they get the content and education that they need at the right time. But finding out who are the right people and what is the right time and what the right information is that they need, that's really the trick. And that's where I come in with marketing automation because all of that begins.
Right. That's the whole job, right? That's
Exactly.
The whole job of marketing. I had somebody recently, I was doing some market research and I asked them, if you could have one thing, and my company, Mountaintop is a data company. I was asking if you could have one thing in your data, like something you don't have now, something that you wish you had, but you don't think it's possible. What's the main thing you'd want? And they said, I'd want to know when people are ready to buy our product. I said, well, you don't want that because then you don't have a job anymore. Like that's your whole job. That's not gonna. There's no magic button for that. It just at some point it takes person to person and doing the work, which is good. It keeps us all employed in marketing.
Exactly. I was going to say that there is always upsell, but no, it's the same thing. There has to be for I think as much as things go digital for any real enterprise sales when we start dealing with multiple zeros, there's always going to be a human being at the end of that. So it's how can we make our technology smarter to listen to the signals so we can get that human-to-human interaction going faster.
Right. So Riskmethods, as you mentioned, isn't really something that's specifically within the B2B marketing scope, but the reason we have you on is you do B2B marketing and you're a bit of a marketing automation expert, I'd say. And you'd mentioned, wanting to discuss simplifying marketing automation. And I really like that. Anytime we can simplify something, it's good. So getting into this, actually, you know what? Before we get into the B2B marketing part, I want to address one thing with you. I usually like to kind of ask people how they got into B2B marketing, but I want to rattle off maybe a little bit of an extended bio here for you because your work history is very, very interesting. I see you started out as an intern in the British Parliament, and then you interned for a U.S. representative, Carolyn Maloney, and then you were a press intern for then Senator Hillary Clinton, and then a production assistant at CNN, and then you did work at Viacom, and then you were a blogger for Turner Broadcasting Channel, and this whole time you're getting a degree in philosophy.
Yes.
And then you went on to work as an instructor at Amherst, right,
Mm-hmm.
where you were getting your degree. And then you got, and I can't tell what the timeline is or any of this, everything is, you're doing so many things overlapping all the time. But you got your PhD in philosophy and ancient Greek philosophy with a focus on Stoic metaphysics. Is that
Oh, I didn't finish
Is
the
that correct?
It's all correct. I didn't finish because I got a job at Yesware, a sales startup company in marketing. So that's where my academia career ended. But this one,
And that's where things went to B2B marketing and got really interesting for me because you went from instructor at Amherst, getting a PhD in Stoic metaphysics
yeah.
to to B2B marketing at Yesware. And I just don't understand how those things are connected. I mean, maybe is Stoic metaphysics, does nobody get a PhD? Do you find out towards the end that I don't know anything about that type of philosophy, whatever it is, but is it kind of, hey, you shouldn't be getting a PhD in this philosophy? That's the whole philosophy.
Probably no one should be getting a PhD in philosophy because the job market's so terrible. So yeah, sort of behind that transition was, will anyone pay me to do anything else? And I wasn't sure if the answer was going to be yes, because I had been in grad school for so long by that point.
Right.
And
so that PhD is what you work on until you get a job at Yesware. Is that kind of the
you know, I
the plan?
have
You
to
just
say,
you keep moving forward in that path until you get a job in B2B marketing.
B2B marketing and philosophy have a lot in common. And it's actually one of the reasons why I think marketing automation made so much sense to me. So to just backtrack a little, the reason why I had to become an expert at marketing automation wasn't because I wanted to at all. I wanted to stay away from it as much as possible, but I had seen I'd seen from friends and even at my current companies that if you couldn't control the numbers, if you couldn't say for certain what marketing was bringing to the pipeline, what they were bringing to the table, if you couldn't point to Salesforce and see this is where it comes from, then you had absolutely nothing. You were marketing was in danger.
Right.
And I never wanted to be in that position. So at Riskmethods, when we bought Pardot, because everyone else was frankly more terrified of marketing automation than I was like, okay, well, someone's got to do it. So it'll be me. And I thought it was going to be awful and painful. And then as I started getting into it, I realized this is actually exactly what I was teaching my undergraduates at UMass Amherst about basic philosophy. All marketing automation really is the two most basic rules of logic that we have. The fancy terms are modus ponens and modus tollens, which basically says if something is A, it equals B. And then the other one is if A happens, then B happens. Marketing automation, I'm familiar with Pardot and Marketo and HubSpot, but I know there are other systems. They all actually function on those same principles. So I think there's actually an argument for start in philosophy and then you can do anything else, including B2B marketing.
I love it. I know a degree in philosophy isn't direct. It's not like you have a trade and you can weld when you come out, but I think everybody should. It should be a side because it applies to everything. So you're kind of saying that, I mean, the marketing automation is really creating a linear connection throughout your marketing of being able to say this led to this, led to this. And I mean, I've seen it over here. I've seen it everywhere. I think it's part of the downside for marketers. Everybody used to love to hide marketing because there wasn't direct accountability. But now you have to justify, just like a salesperson, your existence kind of. You have to show ROI for each of your activities because it's all trackable back through these marketing automation systems and that kind of stuff.
Oh, what I tell my team every day is that if it didn't happen in Salesforce or if it's not recorded in Salesforce, it never happened.
Oh my God. We say that with our CRM too. If it's not in there, it didn't happen. Exactly. Oh my God. I love it.
And I understand the difficulty. We have, people will say, "Oh, but this event was great," and I'm like, "No one's going to remember this event in 6 months, or just because you remember it, unless it's in Salesforce, unless it's the right lead source, the right campaign. It doesn't matter." So everything, this is something I've been working on a lot with Riskmethods, has been whenever we start any campaign. There used to be some pushback on, oh, we'll think about tracking later on. Now we talk, whenever we say, oh, we want to do this project, we talk about how we're going to track it or the operations from the very beginning, because that's really, there's so few things you can't do with marketing automation. It's usually, there are only things you can't do if you didn't set them up correctly at the beginning.
Right. I love it when we talk about events here. We say, we're not doing an event unless we have a plan ahead of time. We have an integrated campaign ahead of time. We know exactly what we're doing. We know how everything's being tracked. We're setting up to talk to people at the event. Like it's what's the purpose in doing? Some people just do events. They show up, hope something happens. They don't realize how short the half-life of somebody's attention is once you get that lead with somebody, once you make any contact with them. Yeah, if you don't capitalize on it, it goes away so fast. Same with sales. I mean, marketing is becoming sales. It's, we're really getting absorbed through these kind of tools. We're just becoming sales assistants kind of.
Well, I think, the divide, especially between the SDR role and marketing, I think it's really a toss-up whether SDRs should report into marketing or into sales, because it's such a blurred line. And as you mentioned just a minute ago, that on the one hand, it's hard, it could be a challenging time for marketing, that we're really on the hook now because everything's expensive, but you see trade shows that are $50,000, and that's a whole other level of expense that we have to justify.
Yeah.
But the good news is that we're not the only ones on the hook. Sales is also on the hook as well. Sales dev is on the hook. And that as soon as you get that marketing tracking in place, then the next thing you do is start measuring the handoff. Is marketing delivering leads, and how quickly is sales picking up on them? And that once you start, now everyone's accountable. And it's a little scary and it's not fun when not everyone's accountable equally. But then when everyone's accountable, you can say for a trade show, listen, our strategy here is just to get email addresses. We don't care about we don't care about getting a meeting right away. We just need emails to nurture. I doubt that's anyone's strategy, but you could say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really just making sure that everyone's measured.
Yeah. And I think it actually brings sales and marketing closer together, because when, marketing sales used to fight a lot. Sales would blame it on marketing when they didn't succeed, and marketing would say, hey, we're doing our job. You guys need to do yours. But once you have the accountability across the board, now the way we handle the SDR thing, you said, same exact, I'm sure a lot of people out there are saying, oh my God, yes, we experience this exact same thing. We were debating who manages our SDRs, who gets credit. Is it for the SDRs, basically, the leads they generate? Do those count towards marketing's efforts or sales efforts? Marketing's feeding them, but sales is training them. And there's all these, and then who's overseeing them directly? Well, that's going to be a sales related person, not a marketing. So yeah, they are this weird hybrid in between kind of thing. But what we did here is we just said, marketing works for sales. Now that they're highly accountable, they work for sales. That department is under the sales department, and their sole job is to feed sales and support sales. So these SDRs can be halfway in between. It's fine. It doesn't really matter. The accountability all kind of flows up through the sales anyway. And I find once the salespeople see that the marketing people are also accountable, then it's all like, oh, we're all in the same boat rowing together now. There's no longer this invisible barrier between them where they can, just kind of throw stuff at each other and blame the other side, because you can see exactly what's going on with these kind of systems. So yeah, I think it brings us a lot closer. Our sales team loves our marketing team now, because they look at it and say, oh, look what you guys are giving to us. Because once the marketing team's accountable, then performance, you get better results when people are held accountable. I guess that's why we have these kind of tools. And
one thing that I was actually very surprised at, but pleasantly, was that our SDRs are really interested in marketing automation. They want to learn more. And I'm embarrassed to say this. When I first started getting some requests, I was like, yeah, whatever. In my head, I'm like, I've got real stuff to do. And I shouldn't have, because then when we had a company kickoff in January, the SDRs had excellent ideas that were pretty easy to implement, that made their jobs a lot better, a lot faster. And then what I realized is, here's the disconnect. They were asking me not for what they wanted, or they weren't telling me their pain point. What they were telling me is what they wanted me to do, because that's how they thought the pain point would be solved. But once I think we just accidentally started chatting one day, when I was like, oh, wait, is this why you want this done? Oh, well, if that's what you want, I can do this really easily and really quickly. And that's made a huge difference. And it's one thing I'm still working on right now. How much should they know? How much do they need to know? So, I know salespeople, you want them focused, you want them on training. But I do think if they have a better knowledge of marketing automation, if they can understand some of the capacities, what the system can do, what it can't do, then it really gives them just a whole new tool set to work with. It makes them so much more creative. It gives them, they can do so much more on their own in terms of messaging, in terms of gathering insights, that
Yeah.
I really think there's a bigger benefit for everyone having sort of a baseline understanding.
And SDRs are kind of, I mean, you talk about marketing's held accountable, sales is held accountable. SDRs are kind of in a worse position where they're stuck between the two and they're held accountable. So yeah, they want to give feedback. They want better results. They want to be able to say, here's what we need in order to generate the leads that are going to basically, make us look good and keep us employed and doing well in our job. So yeah, I think anytime you can get people to give feedback instead of, without something like marketing automation, without all this view into what's actually going on, you get all the finger pointing and stuff like that. And you get people basically making complaints instead of what we say around here is there's no such thing as a complaint. There's just feedback. And then there's get out of my office kind of, and that's it. Say, don't come to me with something, that's not feedback. If you're not doing your job, it's going to be obvious because you have the accountability and the view into what's going on. And, so it's just, yes, give feedback so we can make things better. But if your feedback is that you need to do a better job, don't come to us and tell us that, just do it.
Exactly.
Because we're basically, it's like having children. You say, I know what's going on. I'm watching you. So don't try to lie to me. This gives us a constant surveillance on what's going on. So we can look back and say, no, here's what happened. Here's what's really going on. And I think once you start just kind of looking at little details, I almost said managing, looking at little details for accountability, people snap into shape and you just get so much better results. That, they know they can't shave the corners here and just blame stuff on it here and there. It's all of a sudden they have to actually do stuff and perform. So.
It's interesting. One thing I mentioned earlier about is that, I do have teaching experience as part of my PhD, but one thing I've noticed across marketing and sales is that that you can very rarely send one message to everyone, especially if there's an education component, and have them understand it, because everyone learns differently. So I was doing these trainings for marketing and for sales, and some people would get it, some people wouldn't. And then I sort of stopped myself thinking, wait, yes, people are a little bit older than when you were, teaching undergraduates, but people still don't graduate college and all learn the same way. Everyone learns differently. And that if you're going to train SDRs, train sales on marketing automation, on Salesforce, that you really have to think about how does this person learn? You can't always do one-on-one trainings. That's certainly not sustainable. But one thing I found a lot of success with is what I call sort of mixed trainings, where let's say I have 1 hour, because I don't think anyone can really focus for longer than that on marketing automation at training. I now split it out into sort of 3 sections. One section, and they all cover somewhat similar material, so it doesn't get boring. But I'll sort of start off more with storytelling, because I know that tends to be the most effective way to get people to learn. Then I'll resort to slides, because sometimes you just need to see something, and people seem to get very nervous in meetings without PowerPoint sometimes. And then I'll often end with sort of live exercises. And it's not that, I think all 3 build on each other and help, but it's really hard to get people to not think something's scary if they don't understand it. And I feel that so many trainings are just geared towards the most linear way of learning, and people just they don't pick up information like that. So the more we can make information available, especially to younger employees, in a way that they understand it, we're just going to make all of our lives so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to jump to get more on, we've been talking about marketing automation this whole time, but I've got some specific things around marketing automation that I think everybody probably wants to find the answers to here, kind of. And so can you give, for people who don't know what is really meant by marketing automation at all, can you give just kind of a basic idea of what our marketing automation is, like what the basic functions are that it achieves for people?
That's an absolutely excellent question, and I have a few answers for that. Don't worry, I'll stick with the not boring ones, because
it's tough. I mean, everybody refers to their tool as marketing automation, and half of them do a bunch of different stuff. But it's all called marketing automation. So is there any kind of general?
Yeah. So I'd say it's almost what it isn't, or is what I'd start with. It's not MailChimp. So it's not just sending emails. First we used MailChimp when we first started, both at Riskmethods and at Yesware. It's a great tool as you get started. And I think a lot of people think of marketing automation is, oh, it's like MailChimp, but now I can schedule emails or I can do nurture campaigns.
Actually, yep, I had that written down as one of my options. I know there's a lot of tools out there but every email delivery system, they all want to capitalize on this kind of hot topic of marketing automation. So they all add some little function where you can, if your Outlook has an autoresponder function or out of office, they're going to call it, marketing automation. Because if you automate anything, they want to add that tag to it. So yeah, what can we throw out? We've thrown out MailChimp.
Yeah. It's also not a CRM.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yep. All CRMs call themselves marketing automation. I'm sure some have some built in, but
what I define, or at least my marketing automation, is the system where you make sense of your data.
Mm-hmm.
And by that
I mean, a very PhD in philosophy description.
Yeah, you can't get away from it because you have all your name in sales. You have, we use Salesforce, but I know there are a ton of other CRMs. You have all your names there. You can contact them through Salesforce, your own inbox. But what marketing automation can do that other tools can't do, not a CRM or an inbox, is how do I find the people I need? And by that, I mean, and that sort of gets back into another conversation about how do you organize your data. But marketing automation is what lets I want to email all of my customers who are interested in this product, in this location, about this trade show we have in this area. Marketing automation is what lets you find those people.
So there's kind of a layer between your CRM, your marketing data, and it's a layer between all these tools that are calling themselves marketing automation, kind of?
Exactly. And I think, so as I think I said, we use Pardot. What I actually think of as the marketing automation aspect of Pardot I love all the automations. Those are great. They certainly save time. But what I actually think of the automation part of it being, I can set a list of criteria ahead of time, which is if you hit, this is your job title, this is your level of interaction with us, this is the activity you've taken, you'll automatically be added on to this nurture program because we've decided that if you hit these markers, you should be nurtured, or this is the information that you're ready for right now. Yeah, the automation part is not the automating, you get that message, but sort of the inherent logic that, you this is who you are, and because you are this person, you are now going to be treated this way.
So you're saying it's not necessarily like a cadence from the top to bottom saying, here's all of our people. Now, as they do these things, filter them through, they hit our website, now send this or whatnot. You're saying it's more like you have all this data you want to market to, and you can identify different buckets it might go into for different activities. And you just want to say, okay, here's maybe an SDR is cold calling something. And you're saying once in the CRM, that SDR makes contact with them. And it's going to get passed on to a salesperson. They're going to go into a specific bucket that gets a specific piece of content sent to it, or whatever automation is set up there, or get filtered into a different type of email campaign at that point, or I guess sometimes probably filtered out altogether of marketing. Is that more? So it's really managing your marketing list and how you're contacting people instead of having to go through it is called automation, in a manual way. And filter these things up every time you want to run a campaign. You're saying you're just setting these rules ahead of time for, who goes into what list, basically.
Yeah, and that's why when I say it, people I think sometimes look at me like I'm crazy. And that's what I mean when marketing automation actually isn't that hard. What's hard is the decisions you make before you do the automation. So, as you were saying, when people get filtered into a certain bucket or get filtered out of that bucket, well, as an organization, you have to decide, when do we decide it's worth giving up a prospect? There's no more time. That's right. That's a tough decision.
The number one thing we talk to our salespeople. We say the number one thing you can do to improve your sales is get better at deciding when to throw people away.
And it's those things that are actually hard. I feel like what I do isn't actually the hard part, or the hard part of what I do is making everyone else, and to say to everyone else, you have to make these decisions before we can put this in place. Like, let's
Right.
say you want to start communicating with your customers. First, defining what is a customer is often a lot trickier than you would think. So, who is
Yeah.
the customer? How do we communicate with our customers? When do we communicate with them? Those are tricky decisions. But once you make those, that's why marketing automation isn't hard. I think people think it's hard because they want the software to make the decisions for them, but
Right.
it doesn't. I actually was at a training a little while ago where they said that the greatest thing about marketing automation is that it's nearly completely customizable. You can do almost anything you want with it. And the worst part about marketing automation is that it's almost completely customizable. You can do anything that you want with it because it doesn't
Right.
provide you with built-in best practices or guidelines. You
Well,
have
you
to
still have to
find
make the decision the first time, kind of. You have to dictate
exactly.
how it's going to act to it. People want it to make good decisions for them. It's like that's what your job is. Again, is making good decisions. If it makes good decisions for you, you don't have a job.
You have
So
a problem. You have a bigger problem.
yeah, we tell our sales, hey, if you can't figure out when to continue pursuing something and when to toss it out, then we're going to have to find an automated system that does that, and that's going to mean you're not necessary anymore. That's what we tell our salespeople. You don't want your advice to people, your feedback, to be figure out a way to automate my whole job. So
Yeah.
yeah, marketing automation can do certain stuff, but you still have to program it. You still have to tell it how to make what decisions, kind of, right?
Yes, and it's interesting when people. I find with CRM as well that people put a lot of attribute a lot of emotions to the system. That's like, oh, it's good or it's bad, but CRM marketing automation, they're not intelligent. If something quote unquote bad
Right.
happened, it's because we told it the wrong thing, or
Yeah, it's straight back to philosophy, right?
or
There's no. It's an inanimate object. It can't be smart or stupid. It
yeah,
can't be good or bad.
or to
It's
get on
that's on you.
my high horse, customizations or standardations. I know this is a little bit off topic, but I just feel like it's a PSA I have to tell everyone. One thing that makes everything I think go wrong, or half the time I notice problems, it's because of a customization that the software isn't being used in the standard way, equally for CRM and marketing automation. And people will often be surprised that, like, oh, well, why don't we have this functionality? It says that we have it on the website. Well, it's like, yes, because the company's website thinks that we're using it in the way we're supposed to be using it.
Right.
We're not. So they built their product in the direction in which they thought people were using that product, which makes sense. And that's once you go down that hole, it's hard to get back up.
Right. It's if you're going to buy a product and use it not the way it's intended to be used, you can't complain when it doesn't go right. It's like you really need to understand. Really smart people figured this all out and put it all together for you. Do what they tell you to do if you want to have the results, basically.
Or just, I think it's even sometimes more basic than that. That yes, you bought this piece of software, but that doesn't mean you've bought, I guess, almost your own software. This is still another company's software that is doing things for you and it's holding your data. But
Right.
it's going to operate how it's going to operate. And by doing customizations, it's almost lulling yourself into a false sense of security that that you have all this control. Well, I mean, yes, you do have. GDPR is a whole other conversation, but you still do have control in what you do with your customers' data and whatnot. But you don't have control over the system that it's being housed in, and just be mentally okay with that.
Right. So when talking about customizing this stuff, those kind of things, one thing that comes to mind for me is it seems like with marketing automation, it interacts between so many of these different systems that all call themselves marketing automation, but it seems like they kind of need to all work together to work properly. Is there kind of a basic set or technology stack that you need for marketing automation to work? I mean, can you just you said you guys use Pardot. Can you just use Pardot? Do you need Pardot and Salesforce? Do you still need a couple other pieces for it to work? What's the basic level of not even specific products, but a CRM, an email delivery system,
Yeah,
things to achieve certain goals that you need? What basic tools do you need working with each other to have marketing automation work?
I mean, I think depending on how small you are or how early you are, you can get by pretty. You can get by a lot longer than you would think on CRM. I've only used Salesforce, and I just go the Salesforce route because everything's built on Salesforce. But I know there are tons of others that are great as well. So you definitely need that, and then you definitely need a Mailchimp, and you definitely need Google Analytics. You
So
can,
by a MailChimp, you just mean an email
yeah,
delivery
yeah, something like that.
system.
And you can go a pretty long time with those three. That being said, as soon as you have the bandwidth to get marketing automation, I definitely think you should get in there as soon as possible because it fundamentally affects the infrastructure of your business operations more than anyone ever appreciates. Because if you,
No, you're talking about a marketing automation system, something
yes,
like Pardot, I think maybe
mm-hmm.
Marketo,
Yeah,
HubSpot, those kind of things. But when you say CRM, email delivery, analytics, there's a lot of overlap between a lot of these. It seems like so. Like Pardot, can you explain to
mm-hmm.
people the difference between how would Pardot fit into this equation? If you have an email delivery system with, let's say, Mailchimp, you have
Mm-hmm.
Salesforce.com, you have Google Analytics, is is Pardot overlap with a lot of those? Does it replace some function of those? Is it just a layer in between those? Can you do marketing analytics with just the CRM email delivery, or I'm sorry, marketing automation with just the CRM email delivery and Google? We'll just say Google Analytics to keep it
You
simple.
can't.
And an analytics layer. Can you do automation by connecting those, or are you saying you can get away without automation for a while and then you need to add a Pardot type layer?
You can get by without automation for a while. I'd say as soon as you're at a team of maybe 5 people, or depending on how big your company's growing, before 5 people, something like Pardot might be too resource intensive. HubSpot is quite easy, so maybe a team that size, team of less than 5 would be fine with that. You can get away with it, however, but the time you need Pardot or any sort of other marketing automation is when it's more than sending emails. Anytime you want to start getting into segmenting your base, when you want to start getting into understanding your base, understanding your analytics, where are they coming from? When you really want to start tying everything, multi-touch attribution, when you want to start getting that picture, that's when you're going to need what I would consider like more of a true marketing automation system. Because you need something
Mm-hmm.
that will take everything that you have in your CRM, make sense of it, allow you to communicate, via email, social, in the order that you want, when you want, with marketing automation. But you'll still need, you'll need Google Analytics. But what marketing automation where that's sort of the missing layer, is that it'll find where all of your prospects are coming from, and then put them into your CRM in the right place. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
lot already. There are definitely other tools that Riskmethods, we'll be looking at. We're going to, visible segment. There's more that we want, but we can function. This is CRM. Google Analytics, marketing automation. You can probably last pretty far, but we definitely need more data visualization. That'll be our next technology tool.
So you're saying if you take your CRM, your email delivery, your analytics layer, and you're going to be kind of manually connecting the dots between those to see where everything comes from, and then you're going to come in with your marketing automation, and that platform is going to basically connect all those for you, and then automate some of the activities you do based on those connections.
Exactly.
Is that,
Yeah, I think I can rephrase it much better than I did.
that's my sole job here. You're the one with the information. I just then take it and try to make sense of it.
Oh, hey, that's what I'm doing every day as
Excellent.
well.
That's good. I mean, when we spoke ahead of time off air here, you'd mentioned that simplifying marketing automation was kind of your thing. That's what you wanted to really focus on. So that's what I think this really simplifies it. I mean, I think coming in myself, I had questions because I had things I wanted to know. I'm not just asking these questions for the audience. Sometimes I'm asking them for myself. I want this simplified in my own mind. Like how this stuff works. How do you how do you organize it all? And again, I guess that's where that philosophy degree comes in handy. You're just organizing thoughts here for us.
Well, I also got very, very lucky that Riskmethods is a German company. So when we were doing our onboarding for Pardot, my boss very wisely decided that it was probably better for us each to get onboarded in our native language, which for me definitely isn't German. So they sent a Pardot specialist out to our Munich headquarters, but I went down to Atlanta to Pardot's headquarters, where I had a training with 10 complete strangers. And I just learned what the software could do and what it couldn't do. And then I come back from my training, and I was very surprised because all of my colleagues were flustered. They didn't understand. They were confused. And I talked to them. I talked to my old teammates. I revisited my notes from the Marketo implementation from when I was at Yesware. And what I realized was I really think it's a mistake when you have a specialist come to your company to help you set up your marketing automation system. And the reason why is that you have someone come in the door. You might give them 10 minutes before you interrupt them, but they don't even get to show you how to send an email before you're getting onto, well, here's our priorities, here's how we do things. And by the time the person leaves, you know some things, but what you actually haven't learned is how the software was built to be used and how to use it. So when I was sent away with the strangers, yes, it didn't take into account our customizations and all of the weird things that we do and every company does. But what I did learn is, this is what it's meant to do. This is what it's not meant to do. And so when I came back, when people wanted certain things, I could either say, oh, yep, perfect, or if not, okay, it doesn't exactly work this way, but here's a workaround. And I think that part alone, if you're going to do marketing automation, go elsewhere, at least first, will save you so many months of emotional angst.
So yeah, basically learn with anything. I mean, it's kind of a basic principle, but you have to learn how to do it properly before you try to make it your own. So you're saying go and learn how to use it before customizing. Like, don't try to learn it in a custom situation. Learn the way it's intended to be done, and then you can go freelance.
Yeah, once you understand, or at least that way, if you're doing things in the way they're not meant to be done, at least it was an informed choice. There'll be many times where I'll present options to the exec saying, listen, we can do this, but here are the trade-offs. And as long as everyone's fine with the trade-offs, then there's no problem. But at least you're ahead of the game, and you don't always get unanticipated consequences, which they always happen anyway, but you can try and minimize for them.
Right. Learn the rules before you break them.
Yes.
So I'm gonna be your hype man a little bit here. It seems like if you're gonna take advice from marketing automation or on marketing automation from anyone, you want to take it from somebody who specializes in this, works for a German company that does supply chain risk management. This all just sounds right up the like marketing automation. This and has a degree in oh my gosh, let me get this right, or studied Greek Stoic metaphysics. That's quite the resume of the person to take advice from on marketing automation.
It's unusual.
Yep. So let me switch gears here a little bit. I think we've kind of hit the simplification of marketing automation and what people should do. And I guess I would blame a little bit the MailChimp and some of these people who call everything they do marketing automation for confusing people. It's a MailChimp. If you want to sponsor us, you can still do it. And we'll stop bad talking you, but yeah, they're great. But stop calling everything you do marketing automation. But can you list kind of some of your favorite functions within marketing automation? Like, what are the things, not necessarily the basic stuff, but what are the functions that maybe not every marketing automation system has, that you just love and wouldn't want to live without?
That's a really great question. And I'm so happy you're asking me that, because I don't think anyone else has really asked me that before. And this is the fun nerd stuff that I really like to do. One has been, I love to audit, I'm the kind of person who likes to do a lot of work on one category at once. and then not have to worry about it again. So what I spent the past 2 weeks doing was setting up every webinar promotion and follow-up and landing page and everything for all of 2018. And marketing automation allows you to do that. It's just as long as you're organized, you can create all the landing pages, you can schedule all of the emails ahead of time. As long as your platform has a connector with whatever webinar platform you're using, you can set up automations ahead of time. So if they attend the webinar, they get the right score. If they attend the webinar, they get the right email. I don't have to worry about webinars the rest of 2018. That is
nice.
Fantastic. So there are time efficiencies there. What I think I really love about it, though, or what's the most fun, is what I sort of call like Pardot mysteries. It's often when something goes wrong and you don't know why. And as much as I feel like I'm crazy for saying that, it's always good because I always find it those problems or those curiosities that show you an actual business problem. Sometimes it's completely unrelated to anything that I'm working on, but your marketing automation is where these little weird things tend to pop up, and those often are warning signs that you're going to have a much bigger problem. So I really like it because you just get to see all of your data and you can get a much better idea of problems before they happen. But I really love the control it gives you in terms of what data, how much data you can collect. I was going to say what you don't collect. I think you want to collect everything. But since marketing automation is really the first touch with all of your prospects, you have the opportunity to decide, how do we label? How do we filter? How do we measure? How do we record? And I think these are the most exciting.
Excellent. So when looking at that stuff, trying to make heads or tails of it, organize it, I haven't used Pardot before. Does it have like some sort of a visual mapping of your automation? I mean, are you looking at a screen, and to everyone else, is it going to look like the Matrix, or is it visually make sense? Do you have a trees of connecting things, that kind of stuff, I guess?
I would say actually probably both. First, it looks scary until you understand it. And actually, this is funny. This actually goes back a little bit to what we were talking about earlier, simplifying. One of the reasons I think marketing automation seems more complicated than it is because you don't know what you're looking at, or you don't know what, you either don't know what you're looking at, or you don't know where to find what you're looking for, or you don't know what it's called. Because there are very few views in Pardot or Marketo as well that are necessarily complicated if you just know what it is. But no page is laid out. It's like a Salesforce lead page or contact page. They just assume you understand what all the information means. So
right.
if you knew the terminology, it would make immediate sense to you. Otherwise, it would probably seem crazy. But the good news is that the people who make marketing automation software thankfully know that the people using it aren't rocket scientists, and that we're not engineers. And all of this stuff isn't hard to learn. It takes a little bit of time. You have to put in a little bit of effort, but it's not actually difficult material. And then once you just spend a little bit of time understanding, oh, what does this dashboard mean? Then it's as clear as day.
Right. So it is the Matrix, basically.
Yeah.
You need an operator. You need an operator to make heads or tails of it.
Or YouTube.
Yep. Or oh my God, YouTube. Yeah.
There's some really good, or I mean, not YouTube. I'm sure there's some great, or there's great. I'm sure there's some terrible training out there as well.
Yeah. No, but YouTube is great for that. Anything you want to learn in any system, just Google it on search it on YouTube, and you'll find countless people giving demonstrations on how to do it.
And all of these companies have great resource centers. I've spent so much time on the Marketo and Pardot one. They have office hours. They really make it, of course you have to put in that little bit of effort yourself, but they do make it easy for you.
It's good. It's what separates capable people from everyone else.
Or just, again, I was at a conference this past fall. I think it was the B2B marketing professors conference, and I forget whose talk it was, but one of the keynotes said that in 10 years, there are going to be two kinds of marketing jobs. The ones where the software manages you, and the ones where you manage the software. And which job do you think that you want? And I was like, yeah, I'm glad I was going in this direction already. But, I really do think that, it's interesting that the software is getting so advanced so quickly that it really every marketer should, they don't need to become an expert, but at least become a bit more literate because, as you were saying earlier, marketing's on the hook more than ever. That's not going to change. So even if you're even if you're a field marketer, you need to know how your leads are going to get into your marketing automation system, then get into Salesforce and the right Salesforce campaign. So I encourage every marketer I work with to sort of get over the fear factor and really just start learning because you're going to need to know.
Right. So you're saying marketers are basically going to get separated into people who know how to operate these things, know how to program the logic, and then just kind of commodity marketers.
I mean,
By commodity, I mean they become a commodity themselves. You're not going to have a useful skill necessarily without being guided by somebody who knows how to program this kind of logic, who understands the matrix when they look at it kind of with these marketing automation systems. So if you aren't willing to actually learn how these are supposed to be used, you're going to be left behind in marketing, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a little harsh to say, but it does seem true, and it's certainly not as if this is really a surprise. The digital revolution is upon us, and there's just no reason to think it's slowing down.
It's basically, sorry, marketers, but accountability's here. You got to get your stuff together, or you're going to be left behind.
And
excellent.
We've had warnings, so that's the good news. And it's good that we have this, that marketing automation really seems to be reaching maturity where it's seen. I think it'll still always be seen as an add-on to a CRM to a certain extent, just because CRMs are usually there first and they're a bit older. But marketing automation is an opportunity for marketers to really help their careers. When you think about the Salesforce reporting, board decisions are made based on the Salesforce numbers, but those numbers come from your marketing automation first. It's the marketing automation that feeds Salesforce those numbers. So it's really a great opportunity to be involved in so many business decisions as well.
Right. Yeah, you can be like the rock star salespeople in marketing with all this accountability that comes. You can be a rock star marketer.
And you know what? When it went wrong, you can at least say where it went wrong, and you can say why it won't happen again.
Yeah, and I guess it's a good trend also. If you really know what you're doing, you're seeing more and more companies that are commissioning their marketers. They're saying, hey, we can track this, so let's commission them. And that's why salespeople can make so much money when they're good. So it kind of, some people are going to be cut off the bottom that don't bother to learn this stuff, don't want to learn it, don't have the capacity to learn it. But those people who really want to embrace it and get really good at their marketing craft, you're going to be able to make a lot more because you can prove your value. Kind of, you can say, I'm adding this to the bottom line. Whereas in the past, the salespeople got all those accolades and all the commission kind of went to them. Marketing, we're going to be able to step in and take a little bit of that pie for ourselves.
And one thing I just think that from even just from a enjoyment to life perspective, again with my education background, I'm someone who really likes learning new things. One of the reasons why I felt like getting experience in marketing automation just almost opened a whole new world for me wasn't just that I was suddenly learning so much, but that I realized this is just the beginning. We're going to look back in 10 years and what marketing automation is today. We're going to laugh. We're going to think it was cute. It's going to AI. And data privacy is fascinating. That this is really going to be an interesting area, and the technology is going to develop so quickly. And being on top of it, you're just going to learn so many things. And I also, completely unrelated, think that digital privacy is going to be one of the big civil rights issues. I know it's one now, but I think it's going to be an even bigger one. Free speech. Weirdly enough, marketers with marketing automation, we're going to be right in the middle of all of this.
Yeah, it's definitely getting interesting. So like you said, in 10 years, it'll be funny to look back at something like this and like you said, laugh at it. I always like to tell our people, try to always be embarrassed by what you did the year before. Because you should be constantly improving.
That works. I was like, oh, yeah, no, that definitely applies for me.
Hey, whether it's the creative you're writing, everything you're doing, you want to look back and not say, wow, I was really killing it. That means you've taken a turn for the worse. You got to look back and say, I can't believe I wrote that last week or yesterday or whatever it is.
What were we thinking?
it feels weird, but don't defend your actions of the past. Just, say, wow, I'm better, way better than that now is a lot better thing for people to hear than, no, what I did last year was awesome.
Yeah. Oh no. One of the things I do during trainings, as you can probably tell, I do a lot of them, is I tell everyone, you have no idea how many stupid mistakes I've made because I've gotten good. I've also covered a lot of them up,
Yep.
but it's okay when you're learning. First of all, like we're not going to give you permissions where you can really mess anything up that badly, but it's okay not to feel comfortable. It's okay if it's not perfect or it feels messy. Learning never feels, there is something a little bit uncomfortable, but that's, it's okay. Get comfortable with that feeling. It'll be better next time and just sort of, push yourself. You'd be surprised.
I think that's one of the general principles that I think makes the entrepreneurial spirit we have so successful is our culture says it's okay to fail and say, yep, I made the wrong direction here and now I'm correcting. And so many places around the world that's just not acceptable to say that you did something wrong. You can't be the CEO of a company and say you made a mistake or the wrong decision or something like that. And so basically you point your ship in one direction and you just bury your head in the sand. And that's not it's why we have so many successful, startups in that kind of atmosphere here, I think.
Yeah, you have to be willing to take a chance, be willing to acknowledge when something doesn't work out, and move quickly. It's just, I think they always create, there's so many buzzwords around, creating a culture of failure. And yeah, I just think there's a way to get people to be less nervous, be less
Right.
anxious, because when you're nervous and when you're anxious, at least especially in marketing automation, almost all mistakes happen when people are freaked out, whether it's because they made a mistake, someone's yelling at them, they're tense. Because, I'm certainly not a scientist, but I read the New York Times obsessively, that, when your brain is focused on worrying, you're not thinking about what you're supposed to be doing. You're not having as many good ideas. You're forgetting what you know. The adrenaline's flowing. And that's when you make the mistakes. Whereas when you're like, okay, deep breath, this is uncomfortable, step back, let me Google this, let me phone a friend. That's when you can have a learning opportunity or at least just not make a mistake. But if you do,
Yeah.
you fix it.
When in doubt, Google it. People come to me with questions and I say, have you Googled it yet? I can't answer every question, but Google can.
Well, that's what I've also sort of started implementing. And actually, I wasn't sure about this, but when I started getting more questions for help with things with Pardot, it's always been challenging for me to know when it's the right time to take the training wheels off. And by that, I mean is when are they ready to really do this by themselves, or do I need to still keep helping them? And it's different with everyone, but for the last 2 people I've trained, I've done it a lot sooner, where as soon as I think, I really always begin emphasizing on terminology, because if you don't know your terms, you don't know what to Google for. But once they have the basics and once they have the terms, because I start with that now, then I'm much sooner saying, you know what? I actually think you're ready to look for this on yourself. Like, here's the link to the resource page. I think you're ready. But as I mentioned, the only reason I was able to do that sooner is that I realized, I was sending them to Google, but they didn't know what to Google for. I first need to teach them the terms to Google for.
Right. They have, like you said, they have to know the terminology. Yeah, I'll tell people, they'll come to me with a question in my just general business, not about marketing automation or something that specific, but I'll ask them to Google it and let me know the answer, even when I know the answer, just to get them to Google it also. And, maybe I'll learn something new, and hopefully I'll at least know if they got the right answer if I already know the answer. So we're running a little long here. I want to wrap it up, but before I do, can you list off, we've mentioned a couple of them here, but just to give people a little list of kind of the most popular marketing automation platforms, if people want to start looking into them or just know what else is out there if they're already using one. Can you rattle a couple off for us?
Certainly. So I think the ones I mentioned are Pardot, Marketo, HubSpot, MailChimp. I haven't used this too much.
You said MailChimp.
Oh, no, sorry, that's not. See, this is why it's terrible. When people ask what's marketing automation, like this is why I told my grandmother about this job. I was like, I have no idea what to say to her. Because And the thing is, like, they do have certain automations in there, so you can't say it's really not either. So I guess we could say of companies that call themselves marketing automation. But I would
Right.
also
You'd have
recommend,
to tier them. You could say they're kind of very low level marketing
yeah, so
automation.
that's low level.
Th-
Something that's in between, which I don't have as much experience, I'd sort of put it between HubSpot and MailChimp, is Autopilot. As I said, I haven't used it too much myself, but from the little I have, it seems like it's a nice halfway point.
Okay, excellent. I hadn't heard of that one.
Yeah, I think if we hadn't wanted to go with Pardot quite as quickly, we might have spent more time there. But that one's really interesting. And then other ones, which I also haven't had as much time to play around with yet, that would sort of be a higher level, would be things like Segment and Visible.
Is that one solution, or are those two different things?
Oh no, those are two different ones. Those are both sort of reporting and more advanced data analytics and easier ways to segment your database. But we don't even have those at Riskmethods yet. Right now, I like to think of Pardot, or really any of the robust marketing automation systems, as a pizza pie. And that, well, I mean, yes, you could eat the whole pizza at once, but in theory, you really need to go slice at a time. And I think we still have about 3 more slices at Riskmethods before we're really ready to take on a new tool.
So a lot of these things are like kind of little modules almost that you can add on for another bit of functionality that maybe even a Pardot doesn't have, where you're going to add, you mentioned Segment. Was the other one Visible?
Yes.
Visible. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like, you have Salesforce and you have all these other apps that, build onto it. It's like the same thing's happening for marketing automation, that you're now getting all of these apps to build onto those platforms.
Right. We're making monsters here. What's that? Megatron? You're making a marketing automation Megatron?
Well, I almost just wonder, like, will the whole world just end up being one open API in the end? Will every technology end up integrating with where does the open API end?
Marketing Legos, you just plug together whatever things you want. Hey, that would be great. It sounds good to me. So leading out here, I want to mention a couple things about you, Ali. We're speaking with Ali Jawin. I'm sorry, I haven't said your name enough on the podcast here. I'll say it 5 times fast at the end. But you can reach her on LinkedIn at Ali Jawin. Just type it in and you'll find it. It's ALIJAWIN. Twitter, you want me to give out your Twitter handle?
Yes, please. It'll make me use Twitter.
It's at Jawin, and then your email address. Do you want that given out, or you want to keep that to yourself?
Sure. That'd be great.
Okay, email address. Don't send her junk. That's not the email address. That's my note to you. But email address is ali.jawin@riskmethods.net. And then anything else that you want to mention on how to contact you on your company, on marketing automation, and how to keep it simple? Anything like that?
No, email, LinkedIn, Twitter's all great. I would like to add that Riskmethods is hiring in our Boston and Munich office, so we're considering remote applications. We're growing really quickly, and I need many more colleagues to train on marketing automation. So if this hasn't sounded too scary and you'd like to work with me, please shoot me over an email, as well as I'm happy to talk to anyone about marketing automation at any time. I don't have anyone else here at my company too, and people get bored about talking about it with me. So I'm always looking for new marketing automation friends.
That's awesome. You need somebody that'll listen in your company. So if you're listening to this and you're looking for a job in marketing, you've got a little bit of a leg up on what Ali's looking for here.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage for getting hired over there at Riskmethods. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for listening. Remember, I've added a little plug here at the end, and I kind of stumbled on the first attempt here, but thank you all for listening. This is the Elephant Test podcast. We had Ali Jawin today, and here at the Elephant Test, we like to say, if you market, they will come.
A quick word from our sponsor.
Effective marketing starts with good data. At Mountaintop Data, we are experts at developing and maintaining high-quality marketing lists. With tens of millions of highly accurate records and more data being added daily, we're sure to have the contacts you need. Learn more at mountaintopdata.com.
Hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Elephant Test. Check out the show notes at elephanttest.com. Thank you so much for listening from all of us here at The Elephant Test. Until next time.